Tanzania is one of those places that will completely rewrap your understanding of what it means to be alive on this planet. And I know that sounds dramatic. I know that sounds like something every travel creator says about every destination, but stick with me for the next few minutes because I'm going to walk you through a country so staggeringly beautiful, so rich in culture, so packed with once-in-a-lifetime experiences that by the end of this video, you will either be booking a flight or you will be lying awake tonight wondering why you have not booked a flight yet. Let me start with a confession. Before I really dove into researching Tanzania, I thought I had a decent understanding of East Africa. I'd seen the documentaries, I had scrolled through the Instagram posts, I figured I knew what to expect. Sweeping savannas, some wildlife, maybe a beach or two. And I could not have been more wrong. Tanzania is not just a destination. It is an entire universe compressed into a single country. We are talking about the highest peak on the African continent, the largest caldera in the world, islands that look like they were painted by someone who had never seen an ugly thing in their entire life, and wildlife migrations so massive they are literally visible from space. This is not a place you visit. This is a place that visits you, that gets under your skin and rewires something fundamental in how you see the world. So let us begin this journey, and I want to take you through Tanzania the way it deserves to be experienced. Not as a checklist of tourist spots, but as a story. A story of Earth, of animals, of people, and of moments that make you stop breathing for a second because you simply cannot believe what your eyes are seeing. We have to start with the icon. We have to start with Kilimanjaro. Mount Kilimanjaro stands at roughly 19,341 feet above sea level. That makes it the tallest freestanding mountain on the planet. And I want you to really sit with that for a moment because this is not part of some massive mountain range like the Himalayas or the Andes. This thing just rises out of relatively flat terrain like the Earth decided to build a skyscraper in the middle of a parking lot. It is absurd. It is magnificent. And it draws tens of thousands of climbers every single year from all over the world. Now here is what makes Kilimanjaro truly special beyond just its height. When you climb this mountain, you do not just change altitude, you change worlds. At the base, you start in lush tropical rainforest. The air is thick and warm and everything around you is impossibly green. As you ascend, that forest gives way to heathland and moorland, these eerie landscapes full of giant ground-cell plants that look like something from another planet. Go higher still, and you hit an alpine desert where almost nothing grows, where the air gets thin and the temperature drops and the landscape becomes stark and lunar. And then, at the very top, you reach the Arctic zone. Glaciers and ice fields sitting right on the equator. Think about that. You are practically on the equator and you are standing on ice. In the span of a few days of hiking, you experience nearly every climate zone on Earth. That is not just a mountain. That is a time machine through ecosystems. But Kilimanjaro is also a story of change. Those glaciers I just mentioned, they are disappearing. Scientists estimate that the ice cap on Kilimanjaro has lost more than 80% of its mass over the last century. Some projections suggest the glaciers could be gone entirely within the next couple of decades. So when people climb Kilimanjaro today, they are not just conquering a peak. They are witnessing something that future generations may never get to see. There is a weight to that, there is an urgency. And it adds a layer of emotional depth to the experience that transforms it from a physical challenge into something almost spiritual. Now let us come down from the mountain and head to a place that, for my money, might be the single most awe-inspiring landscape in all of Africa. I'm talking about the Ngorongoro crater. This is a caldera, which means it is the collapsed rim of an ancient volcano. And it is enormous. We are talking about a natural amphitheater that stretches roughly 12 miles across and sits about 2,000 feet deep. The floor of this crater covers over 100 square miles, and within that space lives one of the densest concentrations of wildlife anywhere on the planet. Imagine standing on the rim of this crater for the first time. You look down and you see this vast, self-contained world below you. There are grasslands and forests and a lake and marshes, and scattered across all of it are thousands upon thousands of animals. Lions, elephants, buffalo, hippos, zebras, wildebeest, and if you are incredibly fortunate, the critically endangered black rhinoceros. The crater acts like a natural enclosure, not because the animals cannot leave. Many of them do move in and out, but because the conditions inside are so perfect that many simply choose to stay. The water supply is reliable, the grazing is excellent, and the whole ecosystem functions like a finely tuned machine that has been running for millions of years. What strikes most people about Ngorongoro is the intimacy of it. On the open plains of the Serengeti, wildlife can feel distant, spread across an impossibly vast canvas. But in the crater, everything feels closer. The animals are more concentrated, the encounters are more frequent. You might watch a pride of lions lounging in the grass while a herd of elephants moves past in the background, and a flamingo-covered lake shimmers behind them. It is like someone designed the ultimate wildlife viewing experience and then decided to put walls around it just to make sure you did not miss anything. And speaking of the Serengeti, we need to talk about it. Because if Ngorongoro is a jewel box, the Serengeti is the entire treasure vault. The Serengeti National Park covers roughly 5,700 square miles of grassland, woodland, and riverine forest. It is one of the oldest and most scientifically significant ecosystems on Earth. The archaeological record here stretches back millions of years. This is land where early humans walked. This is land that has been shaped and reshaped by the rhythms of migration and predation and rainfall for longer than civilization has existed. And the centerpiece of the Serengeti experience, the thing that makes it unlike any other place you will ever visit, is the Great Migration. Every year, roughly 1.5 to 2 million wildebeest, along with hundreds of thousands of zebras and gazelles, make a massive circular journey through the Serengeti ecosystem and into Kenya's Masai Mara and back again. They follow the rains. They follow the grass. And along the way, they face rivers teeming with crocodiles, open plains patrolled by lions and cheetahs, and the simple, brutal arithmetic of survival that governs every moment of their existence. The river crossings are what most people picture when they think of the Great Migration, and for good reason. These events are absolutely heart-stopping. Thousands of wildebeest gather on the banks of the Mara River or the Grumeti River, building courage, jostling, hesitating. Then one brave or perhaps foolish individual takes the plunge, and the floodgates open. Bodies pour into the water in a chaotic, desperate rush. Crocodiles strike. The current pulls. Some animals make it across. Some do not. And on the other side, the survivors scramble up the muddy banks and keep walking because stopping is not an option. It is nature at its most raw, its most honest, and its most humbling. But here is something people do not always realize about the Great Migration. It is not just one event. It is a year-round cycle. The wildebeest are always moving. In the southern Serengeti, during the early months of the year, the herds gather on the short grass plains for calving season. Hundreds of thousands of baby wildebeest are born within a few weeks of each other, a survival strategy designed to overwhelm predators through sheer numbers. It is chaotic and beautiful and heartbreaking all at once. Then as the dry season approaches, the herds begin their northward march, and the whole dramatic journey begins again. Let me shift gears now and take you to a place that represents a completely different side of Tanzania, a side that many people overlook entirely because they are so focused on the safari experience. I want to take you to Zanzibar. Zanzibar is an archipelago off the coast of mainland Tanzania, and it is one of those places that feels like it belongs in a dream. The main island, Unguja, which most people simply call Zanzibar, is famous for its beaches, and rightfully so. The sand is white. The water transitions through every shade of blue and turquoise you can imagine. The palm trees sway in a warm ocean breeze that carries the scent of spices and salt. It is, without exaggeration, one of the most beautiful coastal environments in the world. But Zanzibar is so much more than its beaches. Stone Town, the old quarter of Zanzibar City, is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and it is absolutely mesmerizing. The streets are narrow and winding, lined with buildings that reflect centuries of cultural exchange between African, Arab, Indian, and European influences. Massive carved wooden doors, some of them hundreds of years old, guard the entrances to homes and former palaces. The architecture tells the story of a place that was once the epicenter of the East African spice trade, and, more darkly, a major hub in the Indian Ocean slave trade. Walking through Stone Town is like walking through layers of history. Every corner reveals something: a hidden courtyard, a crumbling mosque, a rooftop restaurant where you can watch the sun set over the Indian Ocean while the call to prayer echoes through the streets below. And then there are the spices. Zanzibar is called the Spice Island for a reason. Cloves, nutmeg, cinnamon, black pepper, vanilla, lemongrass. These are not just products here. They are part of the identity of the place. You can visit spice farms where guides will walk you through the plantations, handing you fresh spices to smell and taste, explaining how each one is grown and harvested and used. It is a sensory experience unlike anything else. The aromas are overwhelming in the best possible way, and you leave understanding why these tiny islands once attracted the attention of empires. Now, I want to take you somewhere that most travel videos skip over entirely, and honestly, that is a shame because it might be one of the most visually striking places in all of Tanzania. I am talking about Lake Natron. This lake sits in the northern part of the country, near the border with Kenya, at the base of an active volcano called Ol Duinyo Lengai. And Lake Natron looks like it belongs on Mars. The water is extremely alkaline, with a pH that can reach above 12, and temperatures that can exceed 60 degrees Celsius, that is about 140 degrees Fahrenheit, near the hot spring inflows. The high mineral content gives the lake a surreal reddish-pink color that intensifies during the dry season, creating a landscape that looks almost alien. Most creatures cannot survive in these conditions, but lesser flamingos thrive here. Lake Natron is actually the primary breeding ground for the lesser flamingo in East Africa. Roughly 75% of the world's lesser flamingos are born at this lake. The extreme conditions that make it uninhabitable for most life forms actually protect the flamingos from predators. They nest on salt flats that are too hot and too caustic for most animals to cross. It is a brilliant survival strategy, building your nursery in a place that would kill almost anything else that tried to get there. The area around Lake Natron is also home to the Maasai people, and this brings me to something I want to spend some time on because it is essential to understanding Tanzania. The human element, the cultural richness. Tanzania is home to over 120 ethnic groups, each with its own language, traditions, and way of life. The Maasai are perhaps the most well-known internationally, famous for their distinctive red clothing, their cattle-herding lifestyle, and their incredible jumping dance known as adumu. But the Maasai are just one thread in an incredibly complex cultural tapestry. There are the Hadza, one of the last remaining hunter-gatherer tribes on Earth who live near Lake Eyasi and still hunt with bows and arrows and forage for wild berries and tubers just as their ancestors did thousands of years ago. There are the Chaga people who live on the slopes of Kilimanjaro and have developed sophisticated irrigation systems to farm the mountain's fertile volcanic soil. There are the Sukuma, the largest ethnic group, primarily farmers and herders in the region south of Lake Victoria. What connects all these different groups is a shared national identity that was deliberately cultivated after independence. Tanzania gained its independence from Britain in 1961, and its first president, Julius Nyerere, made a conscious decision to promote Swahili as the national language as a way to unify the country's diverse population. That decision was transformative. Unlike many other African nations where colonial languages remained dominant, Tanzania embraced Swahili as a source of national pride and cohesion. Today, Swahili is spoken by virtually everyone in the country, serving as a bridge between communities that might otherwise have little in common. It is one of the reasons Tanzania has enjoyed a level of internal peace and stability that is remarkable for the region. And Swahili itself is a beautiful language. The greetings alone can take several minutes as people inquire about each other's health, families, and general well-being. There is a warmth and a rhythm to Swahili that reflects the culture it comes from. The word safari, which has been adopted into English to mean a wildlife viewing trip, actually just means journey in Swahili. And that feels right, because everything about Tanzania is a journey. Let me take you to one more natural wonder before we start to wrap up, and this one is a hidden gem that deserves far more attention than it gets. The Selous Game Reserve, now officially known as the Nyerere National Park after it was redesignated in honor of the country's founding father. This is one of the largest protected areas in Africa, covering an area roughly the size of Switzerland. Let that sink in. A single park, the size of an entire European country. What makes the Selous special is its wildness. The Serengeti is incredible, but it gets significant tourist traffic. The Selous is different. Much of the reserve is remote, difficult to access, and relatively unvisited. This means the wildlife encounters here feel more raw, more authentic. You are not watching animals that have become habituated to dozens of safari vehicles. You are seeing truly wild animals in a truly wild landscape. The Rufiji River, which cuts through the reserve, is one of the great waterways of Africa, and boat safaris along its channels offer a perspective on wildlife that you simply cannot get from a vehicle. Hippos surface and submerge. Crocodiles bask on sandbars, elephants wade through the shallows, fish eagles cry overhead. It is a primordial scene, ancient and unchanged. The Selous is also known for its population of African wild dogs, one of the continent's most endangered large carnivores. These are fascinating animals, highly social, incredibly efficient hunters, and absolutely gorgeous with their mottled coats of black, brown, white, and gold. Seeing a pack of wild dogs on the hunt is one of the greatest wildlife spectacles in Africa, and the Selous is one of the best places in the world to experience it. Now, as we come toward the end of this journey through Tanzania, I want to step back and talk about something that ties all of these places and experiences together. It is the feeling you get when you are actually there, standing on Tanzanian soil, breathing Tanzanian air, looking out at a Tanzanian horizon. There is something about this country that quiets the noise in your head. In our regular lives, we are bombarded with information, with notifications, with deadlines and obligations, and the constant low-grade anxiety of modern existence. Tanzania strips all of that away when you are watching a sunset over the Serengeti and the sky turns into this impossible canvas of orange and purple and gold, and the silhouettes of acacia trees stand like sentinels against the fading light. And somewhere in the distance, a lion roars, and the sound carries across the plains. In that moment, nothing else exists. Your phone does not matter. Your inbox does not matter. The only thing that matters is the raw, overwhelming beauty of being a living creature on a living planet. And I think that is ultimately what makes Tanzania one of the great wonders of the world. It is not just the individual attractions, as extraordinary as they are, it is the cumulative effect. It is the way Kilimanjaro at dawn makes you feel small in the best possible way. It is the way a baby elephant stumbling through the grass in Ngorongoro makes you laugh out loud with pure, uncomplicated joy. It is the way the spice-scented alleys of Stone Town make you feel like you have stepped through a portal into another century. It is the way a Maasai elder sharing stories around a fire makes you realize that wisdom does not require technology or degrees. It requires attention and time and a deep connection to the land.